You know what they say, if you want to find out the truth, you got to go to the source. That's why we're all the way here in Vietnam at Vinfast actual headquarters and their test track to drive these two, the VF6 and the VF7, which are the first two electric SUVs that will be launched in India. What do we think? I'm going to get a brief impression out here on this test track and try and tell you what they're both about.
And when I say brief, I mean brief. Literally just 2 rounds in each car of this mostly straight track to form my opinion and put it to camera. So if this all sounds like I'm making this up as I go, that's because I am. We also didn't really get to film these cars like we usually do, so if you see the same few shots repeated, now you know why. Disclaimer done, let's get right into it, starting with the VF6.
Now getting going is as easy as hitting the D button on one of these cool little toggle switches over here, and off we go. Driver's seat is powered, allowing me to get an easy access to my chosen driving position. I really like this compact steering wheel with these buttons. They do look a little ordinary, a little bit plasticky, but the good news is that without an instrument binnacle directly in front of you, it gives you a much cleaner view of what's in front. If you're wondering where your essential information is, a lot of it is right there in this heads-up display, which does have quite a few details, not just the speed, but also the level of charge, as well as some of the ADAS functions like lane keep assist. It's also displayed in the right-hand side of the touchscreen that's closer to the driver, so one quick glance down and you can see all the essentials right there. The dashboard design is simple, it's uncluttered. The touchscreen and the AC console sort of sits a little bit proud of the dashboard, but the rest of it is this swoop that goes behind, quite clean. And the AC vents are nicely integrated into it. There's a bit of dull plastic there, but a bit of shiny brushed silver to liven things up. There's even a bit of cross-stitching on the faux leather on the top of the dash. Now, while they have kept physical controls for something like the volume and of course the drive select, everything else is in the touchscreen. That can be a little bit disappointing, especially since the graphics for things like the AC are quite small. There are shortcuts though that let you go into specific functions of the car, but even things like adjusting the wing mirrors have to be done from a touch over there and then via these buttons on the steering wheel. I've got it in normal mode right now, so the steering feel is nice and light, but should I put it into sport, immediately there's a bit of weight to it. It feels a little artificial, but it's there, and that's good. And there's an immediacy to the power delivery that wasn't there before. And now that we've got it in sport mode and quite an empty stretch of track ahead of us, let's see how it feels like under hard acceleration. Let's go. You can feel some vibrations through the wheel, but there's no doubting that the acceleration is strong. The VF6 gets a single 150 kilowatt, that's about 204 horsepower motor, and you've got to admit, for a car of this size, that's quite a lot.
With 310 Newton meters of torque going through just the front wheels, you do experience some torque steer and even some wheel hop. Still, VinFast says the VF6 Plus will get to 100 kph in 8.89 seconds. It uses a 59.6 kWh battery that's good for a WLTP range of about 480 kilometers, although the final MIDC or ARAI figure for India hasn't been revealed yet.
It's got a good amount of deceleration on liftoff as well. It's not too aggressive, and the best part is that it hops between acceleration and deceleration quite smoothly. The ADAS also seems to respond really well, recognizing road signs and lines alike. What's also impressive is that there's a nice heft to the ride. It doesn't feel too light or brittle like a lot of cars can. Dare I say, it's a little bit European in its ride quality for whatever little I can feel on this track, which is not perfectly smooth, by the way. You can feel a little bit of that, and the result is mostly good, at least from what I can tell from right here. Now, we aren't on a handling track, but let me just take this turn a little bit sharply. And I can tell you that at least it pulls into a corner pretty eagerly. Give us an actual road to test this out properly, I will tell you for sure. But yeah, for this amount of power and this size of car, I think it gives you a good amount of confidence. Power does start to taper off as you get into the absolute higher speeds, about 120 or so. But that's okay, right? Your real acceleration happens lower down and it gets you up to that speed very, very quickly. When it comes to features, we'll get the final list of features for the India spec car closer to the time of it going on sale. But one thing I'm sure a lot of Indians will be happy to know that is featured in this car: ventilated front seats. Trust an Asian market to understand that.
Vinfast has shared some of the feature details with us but have said that they might be subject to change before the time of launch. What they have promised though is that the cars will be fully loaded, and in fact both this VF6 and the VF7 will have pretty much the same features list. Highlights will include, apart from the cooled seats, a big panoramic glass roof, vegan leather upholstery and ADAS with level 2 autonomy. But our time with these cars is limited, so let's go check out what the rear seat is like.
Now here's what space in the back looks like in the VF6. Now this is the smaller of the two initial cars, VF6 and VF7, and well, it's actually sufficient. It's not huge in the back here. Headroom is actually pretty good. You're sat quite low and yeah, a little bit knees up. There's not a whole lot of thigh support. Of course, that's probably down to the battery pack. But yeah, as far as mid-size SUVs go, it's not the best in the class, but it's not too terrible either. What's really nice is that seat comfort is really good. They've got these very soft back cushions that you can really like force your spine into. And yeah, there is a pair of cup holders that fold out of here in the armrest. And the window isn't huge, but it's at a decent height at least. Topping things off is this fixed glass roof that's really, really big. And the people from Vinfast tell us that they will have a form of shade when the car comes to India, just so it doesn't get too hot.
Before we move on to the VF7, a quick look at the styling of the VF6, which should be quite distinct amongst similar EVs in our market. Although not quite distinct enough from its own sibling if you ask me.
The VF6, arguably the more mass market of the two initial offerings, and you can see the differences very subtly if you look at the two side by side, but admittedly they look quite similar when they are viewed in isolation. Now what's signature to all VinFast cars is this V grille with the DRL element over there, and this one's got a nice honeycomb pattern down for the lower grille, and you'll also notice a radar element because these cars have level 2 ADAS. Over here, split headlamp treatment with a projector element and indicators down here in LED fashion, and a curvy sort of dipped hatchback-ish coupe SUV type look for the profile and even the bonnet. Now moving over to the side, what you'll find over here are a set of 18-inch alloy wheels. I think they look nice and butch, a little bit sporty. That's good ears on these cars. That's the charging flap over there. Here is a camera, as you can see, part of the 360 camera array, and a set of pull type door handles for the doors, a chrome surround and sort of chrome treatment for the roof rails here too, and this tapering roofline highlighted by this chrome accent over here. Now moving over to the rear, it is very much crossover. It reminds me a little bit of the Maruti Suzuki Fronx, but if you come around the back, you will see another split element here, part of the lighting down there, and this LED DRL signature up here, and lots of layers to the tailgate. If you open things up, the boot is decent. It doesn't seem particularly huge, and if you lift this up, I think they could potentially fit a space saver spare tire, but certainly not a full-size one underneath there. Let's see if they do that for India.
To the untrained eye, the VF7 looks awfully similar to the VF6, and that might work against it. There are subtle differences up front, like the use of brushed aluminium in the bumper, different headlamp enclosures, and a flatter version of the V-face DRL signature. It's once you move to the side, however, that you notice that it's a whole lot larger. Where the VF6 is 4.3 meters long, the VF7 is 4.5 meters, and it's got a 110 mm longer wheelbase too. It rides on larger 19-inch wheels, it gets unique rear hinge flush door handles, and overall the profile is altogether more laid back. Incidentally, both cars have been raised for India and get 190 mm of ground clearance. Around the back is where the real difference is, as the VF7's tailgate is more complex and convex. It houses elaborate vertical LED tail lamps and a rather prominent spoiler on the roof. It also gets a powered tailgate and a larger 537-litre boot. But to truly appreciate the difference between the two cars, you have to get inside.
The VF7 is related to the VF6, of course. In fact, these were the first two cars to be built on Vinfast all-electric architecture. So there are some similarities from behind the wheel, of course. You still get a great view out thanks to the low dashboard and lack of binnacle in front of you. And this car seems to have an attention alert sensor pointed at my face to see if I'm getting drowsy. It's also, in my opinion, slightly better appointed. Of course, it's positioned higher than the VF6. So it's got this nice soft touch material with cross stitching all around, and that livens up the cabin and makes it feel a little bit more premium. But the screen is largely the same and tilted towards the driver as it was in the VF6. You also get a wireless charger here, and of course that big glass roof up above. This car also feels a little bit larger on its feet, should I say on its wheels, than the VF6, and you can tell that in the slight heft and maturity you get in the ride of this car vis-a-vis that one. It's a subtle difference, but I suppose if you're in the market and shopping between these two, you'll appreciate that. Apart from the three drive modes, Eco, Normal and Sport, which really livens things up, you can also swipe across and get levels of regen which go from off, low, medium and high.
Also setting the VF7 apart is its larger 70.8 kWh battery, although as this is a larger, heavier car, its WLTP range is actually a bit lower than the VF6's. It too can be had with a single 204 horsepower motor and front-wheel drive, but there will also be another version coming to India.
The other big difference between the VF6 and the VF7 is that the VF7 can be had with dual motors and all-wheel drive. And while I can't fully demonstrate that out on this open track over here, I'm sure that also adds to the grip and improves the handling around corners. Now, the other benefit of the dual motor setup is that there's way more power. Combined, these two put out 350 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. And that's good for a 0 to 100 time of around 5.8 seconds. If you floor it from a standstill or even a really low speed, it would actually spin up its wheels. So you better be alert if you're in the market for something like this. It's a lot of power for this size of car. But if performance is what you're looking for, there can be no doubt this is the one you're going to have to look at. What's also nice is that while it's doing those incredibly high speeds, stability is very good. It gives you a lot of confidence to actually hold those speeds out on the highway.
But look, not everyone is after blistering performance in their EV, so what else can buyers look forward to in the VF7?
Now here's the big difference between the VF6 and the VF7, and that's the back seat. Just look how much more space there is in the VF7. Knee room is really actually properly good this time, and headroom is even more.
The other difference is that the rear seat back can be reclined in the VF7, and that's something that was engineered specially for India. It puts you in a more relaxed position, and that's perfect for the chauffeur-driven.
Yeah, the windows are really slim, but they're nice and long, so you do get a decent-ish view out. They're set a bit high, honestly, for my liking. But yeah, a very different rear seat proposition to the VF6 right here in the VF7. What I also like is 3 USB ports back here. The middle one being a 90-watt USB Type-C charger. Also, another big panoramic glass roof, which again is fixed, and again they promise us will have a heat protection solution, probably a film or a shade that will fit into place. But what do you think about the backseat of this Vinfast VF7? Tell us down in the comments.
So while not immediately clear from the spec sheet or even by looking at them, once you dig deeper, it's clear that the VF6 is positioned at the self-driving owner and maybe a small family, while the VF7 targets the chauffeur-driven owner who might want to scare their friends on the weekends with a 350 horsepower launch. Whatever you choose though, you are going to get a lot of features as both the VF6 and VF7 promise to be fully loaded. Where exactly these two will be positioned in the market and who their rivals are is anyone's guess at this point, but VinFast is promising to be aggressive. For one, these will be assembled in India from day one at the brand's freshly built factory in Tamil Nadu. And moreover, VinFast is part of a bigger conglomerate called Vin Group, which plans to bring its whole ecosystem to India, including a charging network, after-sales and service support, car buyback, and even its own app-based taxi service. It's nothing if not bold, and perhaps that itself will win Indian buyers over when the VF6 and VF7 are launched around the festive season this year.